Hi there. So a few people have asked me how I make my wicking beds out of 44-gallon drums. So I thought I'd make a short video to explain the process. Before we get started on the how-to part of the video, I thought it might be useful to recap exactly what we mean by a wicking bed. For those familiar with wicking beds, you can just jump forward to the construction part of the video, but for those who may not be familiar with wicking beds, essentially they're a watertight container that allows plants to be watered from the bottom rather than the top. The way this is done is by having a pipe that allows water to be tipped into the bottom of the container, an overflow, and a bed of gravel which acts as a reservoir for the water. A permeable membrane such as weed matting is used to separate the gravel from soil. And so when water is tipped into the wicking bed, it fills the reservoir at the bottom, soaks across into the soil, and then wicks up using capillary action to the root zone of the plants above. The point of wicking beds is both for efficiency, because very little water gets lost to evaporation, but also to reduce the frequency or the need for watering frequently, because the reservoir of water at the bottom keeps the root zone moist for up to a week, depending on the volume of the reservoir. So the first thing is to cut the drum in half, which will then give you two 100-litre drums, and which is a reasonable size for space, etc. So first thing to do is to mark. The next thing is to cut the drum in half. I use an angle grinder with a very thin blade, and of course don't forget ear and eye protection. Just clean up the edges. Okay, so the next thing is to make the filling pipe that allows you to get the water to the bottom of the drum. You can pretty well use anything, jerry rig anything if you've got some old pipe lying around, but otherwise you can go to your hardware shop and get some PVC pipe and a 90-degree elbow. This is 40mm waste pipe. It's pretty inexpensive, and you just cut it to length. You don't even need to really glue it, just a short piece there to get the water running out. And that will just sit there. You might cut that off just above the lip of the drum. And to fix that in place, just tie it on with a little bit of tie wire at the top, so we're not drilling holes further down. So a couple of holes here. And another one for the other side. it up with some pliers. Good idea to knock the tag over so you don't tap your hand on it. Just to show you what that looks like, you'll note I've got it running around the rim of the drum. You don't want it pointing into the middle because there won't be any gravel in there, but I'll explain that a bit later. If you're using when you're using the top half of the drum, make sure that the two access points are firmly on so you don't get any leakage through there too. And the last thing to do before we're ready to fill the wicking bed is to put in the overflow. I normally like to do that on the opposite side from where we're filling, just so that I know the water has spread all the way around at the bottom before I stop filling it up. Generally you want the overflow to be about 75 mil, 3 inches from the bottom, depending on the height of the drum, but in this case about there would do. So drill a little pilot hole. And then a slightly bigger hole so that it will not block up. Now that's probably sufficient, the water will just dribble out of there, but I like to put some kind of a little fitting in there just to direct the water away from the edge of the drum so you don't have water running down the edge of the drum, and it just kind of looks nice. So you can use anything you like, a little electrical conduit fitting or an irrigation fitting with a thread and a nut on the other side. I'm going to just use this, which is a little irrigation pipe joiner. I'll cut the flange off that. Push that through. That's probably tight enough actually, but otherwise you can put a little bit of wire on the inside and just twitch it up just to keep it in there, but this one in fact is tight enough, so I'll just leave it at that. Okay, now that the wicking tub is constructed, we can now fill it. It's probably best to put it in its location where it's going to be, because once it's full, as you can imagine, it's pretty heavy. You can move them, but it takes a bit of effort, so if you can put it in its final place, it's probably better. Alright, I like to put a big-ish rock in front of the outlet of the pipe, just so it doesn't get blocked. The other thing you can do, of course, is to drill some holes in here, which I haven't done, but there's no reason why you can't do that. So then essentially it's filling the void up to the overflow with gravel. But we don't want any rocks in the middle. So we kind of create a donut shape, if you like, around the edges. Essentially up to the level of the overflow, and maybe a little bit above. Just, we don't want the overflow blocked by the soil, so that needs to be in the rocks. So there, that creates the void that will hold the water. And now for weed matting. This is or some kind of permeable membrane. Now this is important because it separates the soil from the rocks, allows the water to wick up or travel through, but prevents the soil particles from working their way down into the gravel and essentially blocking the voids where the water is stored. And you can just cut this with scissors roughly. Essentially just roughly cut out enough to cover the space. That's fine. Just cut that little bit off there, we don't need that. And now we're ready to put the soil in. Now I like to pre-fill a little bit of water in before we start, just so there's a bit of water in that the soil can merge with. And now we're ready to put in the soil. There you have it, ready for planting your seeds or your seedlings. A couple of other things you can do. If you don't, for example, if you don't like the sharp edges, you can put some kind of a plastic cover. One option is to use a bit of irrigation pipe, get the smallest diameter you can, and just get a Stanley knife and carefully cut it down, and then you can clip it on. I happen to have a whole lot of electrical wire sheath that someone's stripped the wire out of, and it actually works very nicely. You can just lead it on and create a nice soft edge so that you won't cut your hand on. Off. A little dab of silicone in there, in a few places around there, would also help hold it on. And there you have it, the finished wicking bed, complete with plants. Filling them is easy. You simply fill this until water starts coming out of your overflow, and then you know it is complete and ready to go. There we go, water's now coming out and that's full and doesn't need to be watered now for probably a week. And one last thing, if snails are a problem, these wicking beds do lend themselves to putting some kind of a snail barrier around here. I haven't done this yet. If anyone can come up with a good way of doing that, please let me know. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and yeah, feel free to send me some feedback. See you later.